Historians call Ferdinand VII the king who destroyed his own country, but the real mystery is what he hid and did behind palace walls. Rumors followed him his entire life, blurring the lines between truth and myth. What exactly was he hiding? What did he do? Were his actions just? And how much of it was all real? In today's video, we'll explore the betrayals, mysteries, and dark legacy that Ferdinand VII left behind. Ferdinand VII didn't grow up like a future king. He grew up like a problem waiting to happen, and everyone saw it coming. He was born in 1784 at El Escorial, a massive stone maze of palace outside of Madrid. And from the beginning, people expected greatness, but his own family trusted him so little, they kept him away from any real power. His father, King Charles IV, had ruled in name only, and his mother, Queen Maria Luisa, had influence, but the true power sat with Manuel Godoy, a young ambitious minister far too close to the Queen. Close enough that rumors would spread through Spain faster than the crown could deny them. Ferdinand watched all of it from the shadows. He was the heir, yet had no control, no influence, and worst of all, no respect. The court was drowning in corruption and whispers. It was the perfect environment to grow resentment, and Ferdinand absorbed every single drop. Instead of maturing into a confident leader, he became suspicious, jealous, and angry, and soon that resentment turned into something much more darker. By his early 20s, Ferdinand had made a decision that would define his life. If the crown would not come to him, he would take it for himself. In 1807, he secretly joined the El Escorial conspiracy, a plan to overthrow his own parents with the help of Napoleon Bonaparte, the most dangerous man in Europe at the time. Ferdinand was certain that Napoleon would give him support. However, he was wrong. The plot would be exposed, he would be arrested, humiliated, and dragged before his father, a prince caught betraying his own family, and Spain had never seen anything like it. Charles forgave him in public, but in private the damage was permanent. From that moment on, the royal family never trusted Ferdinand again, and he never forgot the shame. This failed conspiracy would be the first warning sign of who he truly was, a man who was driven by betrayal, desperation, and terrible decisions. And the worst part of it all, his biggest mistakes were still ahead. In 1808, Spain snapped, and Ferdinand VII was standing right at the center of the storm. For years, citizens had watched their country crumble under Charles IV and Manuel Godoy. Taxes were crushing, the economy was falling apart, and Godoy's influence made him the most hated man in Spain. Tension built and built until it finally exploded. This eruption became known as the Tumult of Oranges. An angry mob stormed Godoy's residence, dragging him out and demanding that he pay for years of corruption. Charles would panic. The kingdom was collapsing around him. He did the only thing he could think of and abdicated. Just like that, 23-year-old Ferdinand became king, and Spain rejoiced. They would refer to him as the Desired One, because to them, he was the fresh start the nation desperately needed. But Ferdinand had no idea how to rule, and the decision he made next would wreck everything. Desperate for guidance, he then turned to Napoleon, the last person on earth he should have trusted. Napoleon invited him to Bayonne, pretending to help solve Spain's crisis. It was a trap, though, and within days, Ferdinand would be forced to give the crown back to his father. Charles then handed it over to Napoleon, and Napoleon gave it to his own brother Joseph. Ferdinand had lost the throne almost as quickly as he gained it. Napoleon did not execute him, but instead locked him away in luxury for 6 years of comfortable imprisonment, a golden cage for a failed king. Back in Spain, everything descended into chaos. The Peninsular War erupted, fought not for ideals or freedom, but in Ferdinand's name. Ordinary Spaniards rejected the French king and formed local juntas. They fought fiercely, refusing to accept Napoleon's new ruler. In 1812, while Ferdinand relaxed in France, Spain created the Constitution of the Cadiz, a bold plan for a modern nation. The irony is almost unbelievable. Spain fought, bled, and sacrificed to restore Ferdinand, not knowing that once he returned, he would betray them all over again. When Ferdinand VII returned to Spain in 1814, the country exploded with excitement. After years of war and French occupation, people expected a humbled savior, a much more wise and calm version of the king they once adored. But the celebration would not last. The moment that he stepped off the carriage, something felt off. Before returning, Ferdinand hinted that he would support the Constitution, Spain's brightest hope for a modern future. He never confirmed it. He only kept things vague, smiling in public while hiding his true intentions. The second that he reached Madrid, the truth finally came out. Within days, he had torn the Constitution apart, both literally and politically, and declared it invalid, restoring absolute monarchy while erasing 6 years of progress in one single stroke. It was a shocking betrayal. The same people who had fought for him were now watching him reverse everything that they'd sacrificed for. And then it got even worse. Ferdinand brought back harsh censorship. He shut down the liberal press, targeted teachers, officers, writers, and anyone who connected to reform. Many were imprisoned or sent away. First-hand accounts would describe him as cold and distant, barely speaking in meetings while acting more like a man settling scores than ruling a nation. He even revived institutions that many thought were gone forever, including the Inquisition. Fear returned to Spain, and resistance began to boil beneath the surface. The desired one had come home, but now he ruled like a villain, and this would only be the beginning. By 1820, Spain was ready to erupt once again. A young officer named Rafael del Riego led a revolt that shook Ferdinand's power to its core. This time, the king had no choice and would be forced to accept the same constitution of 1812 that he had once destroyed. For 3 years, Spain experienced something rare: real liberal rule. Free press, elected assemblies, limits on royal power. On the surface, Ferdinand accepted all of it, but behind the scenes he was waiting quietly, collecting information, building alliances, and smiling his way through speeches he did not believe. Then, in 1823, his opportunity arrived. France sent him an army known as the 100,000 Sons of St. Louis in order to restore the old order. The invasion would be quick, and just like that, Ferdinand returned to absolute power. This time there was no pretending. Censorship would snap back into place, reformers were removed and pushed out, critics would face punishment, and all hope faded almost overnight. The liberal triennium was now over, and Ferdinand's most harsh years were still ahead. While Ferdinand VII obsessed over silencing liberals at home, something far more dangerous was happening across the ocean. Spain's empire, once massive, wealthy, and feared, was now cracking apart, and the king did not seem to notice, or even worse, he just didn't care. For years, independence movements had simmered quietly in the Americas, but under Ferdinand's chaotic rule, those sparks would explode. Each rebellion grew stronger, each colony drifted further away, and while leaders begged the king for support, he kept on delaying, hesitating, and contradicting himself. And here's the strangest part: he had been warned, repeatedly. Generals sent desperate letters, governors reported growing unrest, but Ferdinand just kept on fighting invisible enemies at home, convinced that the real threat was inside of Spain and not thousands of miles away. By 1826, it would be too late. Mexico was gone, Argentina was gone, Colombia was gone. Almost the entire Spanish-American Empire broke free in only a few years, collapsing so fast that even Europe would be stunned. Some historians say that it wasn't just incompetence, it was self-destruction, because every time that Spain needed a leader, Ferdinand would choose revenge. Every time the army needed resources, he would choose censorship, and every time the empire called for modernization, he would choose the past. The results? A global empire that shrank into a wounded, isolated country ruled by a king whose failures were now impossible to hide. Yet, despite all of the loss, the most scandalous part of Ferdinand's life was not happening in the colonies or in the parliament. It was taking place inside of his own palace, where rumors began spreading about something deeply personal that would haunt his legacy even more. If Ferdinand VII's political life was a disaster, his personal life was something even more strange. For generations, whispers echoed throughout Spain's royal courts, those about the king's body, his marriages, and the secrets he tried to keep locked behind doors. some claiming his anatomy was unusual. Amongst the many mysteries and myths that surrounded his reign, one of such was his large and massive penis. It was speculated that it could be the reason why he had scandalous marriages, but that still remains a mystery. Most historians can't confirm the details, but the rumors refuse to die, and the timing of those rumors was too convenient to ignore. His first marriage to Maria Antonia of Naples was cold from the beginning. Political, forced, and miserable, 2 miscarriages would follow, and tragedies that only deepened the tension between them. People began quietly asking questions that Ferdinand hated. Then came Maria Isabel of Portugal, his very own niece. Young, kind, and hopeful, she gave him a daughter, but the child died almost immediately. At age 21, Maria would die during childbirth, 2 lives gone in a single moment, and the rumors would grow louder. His third wife, Maria Josepha Amelia, barely spoke at court. Raised in strict Catholic isolation, she reportedly feared intimacy itself. The marriage was distant, cold, and strangely formal, and she would die at the age of 25 with no heirs, no answers, and only more mystery. But everything would change in 1829. Ferdinand married once again, and her name would be Maria Cristina of the Two Sicilies. She was young, clever, and determined, and for the first time, something unexpected happened. She would give Ferdinand 2 daughters. One of them, Isabella, would one day become queen. Finally, there was an heir and stability, or so Spain thought. The fact is that the marriage didn't solve anything. It created a brand new problem, a most dangerous one that would ignite one of Spain's most bloody conflicts, the Carlist Wars. Ferdinand's 4 marriages were not only just tragic love stories, they were political earthquakes, clues, warnings, pieces of a puzzle that painted the picture of a king whose personal life was just as unstable and just as destructive as his own reign. And the darkest part? Some say the secrets in the royal bedroom explain more about his rule than anything he ever signed, declared, or destroyed. Ferdinand VII's final years looked calm on the surface, but underneath, Spain was a ticking time bomb. The king himself had lit the fuse. In 1830, he made a decision which would stun Europe. With a single document, the Pragmatic Sanction, he overturned centuries of tradition, allowing his newborn daughter Isabella to inherit the throne. To the public, it looked as though it was a father protecting his child, but to his brother Don Carlos, it was a declaration of war. Carlos had waited his entire life to be king, and now suddenly he wasn't only pushed aside, he would be replaced by a toddler, a child who couldn't even walk, speak, or rule. And behind that child stood Maria Cristina, the young queen regent with shaky political instincts and enemies all over the place. Whispers began immediately. Ferdinand has doomed us. The real battle begins after he dies, and everyone was right. September of 1833. Ferdinand VII passed away, and Spain unraveled overnight. Isabella was only 3 years old and became queen. Maria Cristina took power with no experience, and Don Carlos refused to accept any of it. Within days, he would proclaim himself the rightful king, and within weeks, Spain was at war. The First Carlist War wasn't only a rebellion, it was Spain tearing itself apart. Villages burned, families split over loyalty, conservatives rallied behind Don Carlos. Liberals would fight for Isabella, both sides believing they were defending Spain's future, and both blamed Ferdinand for the mess. Because here's the chilling reality: the war was not an accident. It would be the final consequence of a lifetime of bad decisions.